Welcome to FUT Weekly.
Find out how Ben made 350k in just 12 transfers.
We talk through the first patch for FIFA 17.
Have we solved the mystery of the lesser spotted penalty arrow?
I fill you in on the FUT Champions grind I could live without, but the rewards I can't.
And as always, we talk through the team of the week as well as our Dynamite Discards. It's week 5 of FIFA 17. I know you played quite a lot of FUT Champions this weekend. How are your fingers holding up?
Yeah, they've definitely been better. It was quite an intense weekend. Ended up playing 39 games, but I think the worst thing about it was that 25, maybe more of those games were on Sunday. So, because I didn't have much to do and felt like it was a good weekend to commit some time to it and see what it was really like grinding through it. That was what I did for most of Sunday, and it was pretty horrible. Just not a great experience. But on the plus side, I got gold 3, which was kind of what I'd targeted. I was slightly disappointed to miss out on gold 2 though, because I was only a win away. And the only reason why I didn't manage to get gold 2 was because I didn't manage to play the 40 games. I only played 39.
Yeah.
That's assuming I'd obviously win that.
Yeah, 100% win.
yeah, of course. Yeah. So yeah, it was not too bad record, I think. So it's 21 wins in 39 games, which I'm fairly happy. My team's not worth more than about 20k, and I think I'm the best player ever. So it's I was quite pleased with that.
Hoarding all your coins at the moment, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So we'll talk about this briefly now, because we might talk about it a little more later. But Jota, obviously, I invested a lot of coins in Jota's. Picked up, had 12 of them, and basically the Sun SBC came out and informs went up massively. And because he's quite a good player to link, and he wasn't that expensive, he went up to at one point about 49k or something. So I sold one that I bought for 13k for 48k. Most of the others I sold between 35 and 45.
Yeah, I felt like a bit of an idiot for not joining you on that investment, because you were pretty much tripling or quadrupling your money on some of them.
Yeah. So I ended up, was down at like, after I bought all of those, down to sort of 20, 30k, but have now went up to about, 500, just under 500, selling off those. And then I had the added bonus of the packs that I got, plus the 30k from Gold 3. And having opened those packs, managed to get, actually popped up Carvial. I was like, Carvial, he's not very valuable. But, man, Kante just there next to him. So
a little bit of N'Golo. Very nice.
So that was 30k. And also got Rakitic, who is 40k. And Koke, who's like 4k. So,
cool.
It was really
pretty solid rewards.
Quite a solid reward.
Yeah, an extra 100k there.
Yeah, but I still haven't had a walkout, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, weird, because Rakitic is pretty high rated, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 87 and still no walkout on that.
Oh, sad.
So, yeah, but I really think that it's great, that you can get these rewards, but how often am I going to manage to play that many games in a weekend? Very rarely.
Yeah, I mean, 40 matches, that is a huge time commitment. Even if you're absolutely ramming them in and you're just going straight into another game after you play one, 40 games of FIFA is going to be at least 10 to 12 hours of play, probably more, when you factor in kind of team management, tweaking a team, allowing for injuries, fitness rotation. I mean, it's going to set you back a lot of time. And something that we both noticed, even though I only played a very brief amount this weekend because I was away for most of it, was people quitting out of matches once it looked like they were probably going to lose.
Yeah, and especially on Sunday, when on Sunday you have to kind of get all your games in. Yeah, people are more likely to quit, and the play is a lot sweatier. I think if you want to play, try and aim to play on like Saturdays, because it's just so much nicer to play. It was really horrible on the Sunday, combined with the fact that I was experiencing heavy fatigue.
Yeah,
it was not particularly pleasant.
Mentally and physically drained. By the end
exactly.
Of it.
So yeah, but on the other hand, the rewards were great. But if you're not gonna get a very good win record and you can't play that many games, I wonder if it's better to just play divisions and get yourself up to Division 1 and make sure you're in there for the for the next
true,
because it's quite an easy way of qualifying.
Yeah, so obviously there are the weekly or the daily tournaments, but also, as far as we can tell, you can qualify through divisions in 3 different ways: by winning Division 2, holding your place in Division 1, and winning Division 1. So that could, if you're a decent player, that could actually be a more reliable way than playing the tournaments.
And holding Division 1 is not terribly difficult, and you only have to play 10 games, which is really not as bad as the tournaments, considering you can end up playing quite a lot to try and qualify.
Or at least later in the year. At this stage, things are still in flux, and you've probably got a very high level of player up in Division 1 at the moment, whereas it kind of evens out later on in the year.
Yeah, that's very true.
But yeah, that was a bit of a tangent. So did you found a lot of people were quitting out on you in your games?
Yeah, and it seems slightly odd because over the years, EA have tried so hard to basically make, well, I suppose, disincentivize disconnecting, to make it much less appealing.
DNF thing they've had for a while as a modifier on the coins you earn in matches. I don't think that's ever really stopped people quitting that much. I mean, I kind of worry about it, but for the most part, even if your opponent disconnects, the DNF modifier, it's partly a continuous thing that affects you between matches, but also if you only have played 15 in-game minutes of a match, you still only, regardless of your own DNF modifier, you're still going to get a very small amount of coins.
Yeah, true. But I think there's, in the past, in terms of people disconnecting, there's only been a few times when it was really worth it.
Yeah.
Like, people rage quitting, that's one thing, but people actually, like, thoughtfully disconnecting themselves.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
different.
you got at the end of FIFA 16 when they did double coin rewards for divisions, and people were getting promoted to Division 1, and then unless they like playing their first game of Division 1, if they didn't win it, then just quickly or disconnecting from 4 or 5 more matches in order to get relegated again because they could more reliably do well in Division 2.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other time that people sometimes do it is if a tournament was close to ending that they'd like wanted to win, which meant that they just used to quit out so that they made sure they had enough time to complete the tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
it was a similar kind of thing. Like, it was better to quit that first round game and then go back in again and play someone you were probably going to lose to. Now we have a situation where quitting is quite advantageous to most people who are not going to be able to play 40 games.
Yeah.
I mean, I had quite a solid weekend at it and I didn't get to 40, and imagine therefore it's going to make sense for a lot of people to be quitting out of games they're winning.
I mean, we were talking earlier about how injuries is also something that will be affecting people's ability to play all 40 matches, because if you've got a lot of players out for 2 or 3 games, you're having to either spend time quitting out single player matches to get rid of that or using injury cards, and it's just all little bits of extra squad management that affect how much time you've got to spend in matches. But this brings us quite nicely onto patch 1 for FIFA 17, which has made it so you will no longer have to substitute your injured players.
Yeah, which is really great news. It's phrased slightly oddly. It says,
addressed an issue where the player is forced to substitute an injured player in FUT online matches.
Which really makes it sound like it was just once or twice that it's happened.
Yeah, it kind of makes it sound like this was some quite obscure issue that might have affected a couple of people, but it's been happening twice or even 3 times in a single match.
Yeah, I would suggest that it maybe wasn't a sort of bug. It felt like it was something that was introduced into the game rather than a bug.
Yeah, it seems to be like they're now claiming that this was just an unintended feature. It wasn't meant to be in the game. But I mean, this was happening in the beta test, and there was a lot of noise on the forums then about it. There's no way EA didn't know that this was happening.
Yeah, that would have been quite odd if they hadn't sort of not really picked up on it or something. It's a strange thing. I mean, I think my reasons for thinking that it was perhaps something that they'd done deliberately was because I feel like this year they've been trying to increase the value of packs. So by making, say, not particularly popular players popular through squad building challenges, and that meaning that the players you packed would generally be higher value. I thought maybe they were doing the same thing with injury cards.
Yeah, that's true, actually. It is an interesting one. What we'll only really be able to tell by playing more in this patch is whether they've toned down the duration of the injuries we're getting, because they've not removed injuries from the game full stop. They've just made it so you don't have to substitute players off. And if we're still getting lots of 4 or even 5 match injuries, then that was the real problem for me. The substituting players during matches was occasionally frustrating, but it did sort of add an extra level of realism that if we're still getting those huge injuries.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think actually getting the sort of 4 or 5 game injuries almost as regularly as 1 to 2 game was the worst thing about it, because that really messes with your whole squad. It's really hard to rotate squads if you're getting a 4 or 5 game injury, because you can only play 2 games max with another squad.
Yeah. Well, I think we've got to see whether or not this is a positive change. But it might be. They might have unspokenly toned down the injury durations a little bit.
Unspokenly, nice.
Yeah, I speak good English.
So yeah, and the other interesting stuff that they've got up to is finally correcting the text for custom tactics.
Yeah.
So it previously said crossing when it meant shooting and shooting when it meant crossing. So we mentioned this in a few episodes ago. So if you have it currently set wrong, if that makes sense, then keep it like that because they've just changed the text.
Yeah. So this was just a display bug where in the chance creation bit of custom tactics, it was just showing it the wrong way around. And I mean, we were wondering whether EA would even tell us when they fixed this because it was such a small thing and it should be quite typically them to just slip it in as a little change. But yeah, they told us they want kudos for doing a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's nice of them to do so. Elsewhere, I think we've got a change to. I don't really understand this actually because I don't really play single player and I haven't played the journey. But you could explain what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, everyone when you first start FIFA, it asks you what difficulty you want to play on, and mine defaulted to professional, and then I was playing the journey, and after a while it was like, you're doing well on professional, do you want to switch up to world class? So I said yes, and then I'd noticed actually whenever I'd gone into a FUT single player match when I was trying to get loyalty on some players or sort out some injuries, it was the difficulty was setting it to world class, even if the match was nominally meant to be an amateur or semi-pro or professional game. And I figured that was kind of a bug, but wasn't necessarily expecting EA to fix it, but they have. So that will no longer happen. It won't set Ultimate Team single player matches to your offline single player difficulty setting. So that's another little quality of life improvement, I guess.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Not that, necessarily affects people too much, I don't think.
Yeah, because
still,
I mean, I wasn't actually playing these matches on world class. I was just noticing when I went into them and then kicking off and quitting out. So cheers, EA.
Yeah. So have you noticed anything else about, people talked about sort of there being a sort of button delay lag thing?
Button lag. Yeah, I've had a little bit. And I mean, one of the improvements a couple of the improvements they've listed under gameplay or issues they've addressed in gameplay talk about responsiveness, and I assume that's sort of what they're talking about. They've said they've improved the general responsiveness for shooting, and what that means exactly is quite hard to tell. I've not really noticed that much of a difference with shooting, to be honest, post-patch. I've not played a huge amount since the patch came out, but
no, I don't know actually. It's hard to say. I think there's some stuff about passing responsiveness in the air, and I feel like I've noticed that, and also we were talking before about attempting clearances, taking touches, and
so there's quite. I think we'll probably spend a minute on this because there are quite a lot of changes they've made to, I think, corners or defending corners, and the ball being in the air, because I think players were struggling with that. And talking about the passing responsiveness when the ball's in the air, I have noticed a few times if I played a goal kick and I request a header as like the first touch from the player it goes to, a lot of the time they still try and chest it. So I thought there was a bit of maybe button lag or lack of responsiveness there.
I feel like players are still doing these like weird chest touches.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, we were playing earlier and there still were some of those. So that's probably not what they've actually patched.
Yeah, no, exactly.
In terms of the corner kicks, what we were wondering if they might tweak in the patch was people playing short corners and then whipping a cross into the far post and in swinging one, because I'm sure if you've played a lot of FIFA this year, this will have happened to you, and it'll feel like your goalkeeper doesn't respond to where the ball has moved to, and your centre backs or any of your defenders who are in there don't respond as quickly as the attacker, and your opponent just basically gets a free header at goal, and it's felt like something you kind of can't defend against.
Yeah, and I feel like this has been one of those things that has kind of haunted FIFA previously as well.
Yeah, it has existed in previous games.
There's past games where that's been really OP, and it's really frustrating because there's really nothing you can do. It's just a kind of AI problem, really.
Yeah, and so what they've said in the patch notes on the gameplay issues that they've tweaked is they've said they've addressed goalkeeper positioning for corner kicks, whether that's specifically on these in-swinging corners or just in general. I mean, they've been a lot better this year at communicating things, and the patch notes popped up when you first logged into Ultimate Team, so that's good, but this doesn't really tell us what they've done at all addressing goalkeeper positioning for corner kicks.
Yeah, and the other particularly...
Yeah, there's another bizarre one where it says they've made improvements to contested headers logic from corner kicks, which is kind of jargon. I mean, it's talking about how the game resolves contested headers. But
And I guess if you're looking at improvements to logic ultimately in that sentence, then that is theoretically good because you want things to be more logical. But that's about the best you can do out of that, really.
Yeah, no, that's a bit of a bizarre one. But yeah, there's like 4 bullet points that all seem to be specifically to do with corner kicks or defending aerial balls as well. They've addressed an issue where the player would control the ball instead of attempting a clearance, and that was something that affects both of us, where you get someone stopping the ball on the line and you're hammering the clearance button, but they just take a touch or several touches before they actually try to get the ball clear. And I've definitely conceded a couple of goals because of that. So if that's been tweaked, that's good. And they've also made improvements to player switching from corners and free kicks.
Yeah, which is, again, should help a lot on the corners because they've been really awkward to defend. Oh, the other thing is that there's this thing about skill moves, which, well, we both like to use a few, and it should help basically players like overrunning their skill moves, so they do the skill and then they just walk over the ball.
Yeah, I had noticed that a couple of times.
So, and actually having done some skills since the patch, it seems I haven't actually noticed that.
Yeah.
Noticed any problems yet.
I mean, it wasn't particularly common, but it definitely did still happen a bit.
But yeah, also the interesting thing about crossing and deliveries of balls into the box, the triple tap cross.
Yeah, they've increased the chance of error from ground crosses, so basically made those less reliable. I hadn't actually encountered people doing that too much this year.
That kind of suggests that it was being abused, but I certainly didn't notice many people doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I tried it out myself a couple of times with fairly mixed results.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. And yeah, I think you had a forum post you wanted to talk about that sort of ties into the patch notes or something that wasn't in the patch notes.
Yeah, exactly. And this topic's a bit more of a kind of rant, I suppose. It's not something interesting that we haven't seen before, but it makes a really good point. And especially as we're talking about the patch at the moment and what's been fixed, this hasn't really been affected by the patch, which is slightly surprising. Basically, the title of the particular post is "Penalties are a beep shambles," and slightly strangely, they've used a 4-character expletive, which means they're kind of going for penalties are a shit shambles or fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how that works, but yeah, the point being,
Penalties are, it's a shit shambles. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, now it's obviously a thing, so we're just gonna go with that. So what they've kind of said is that why is the arrow disappearing and appearing, all this kind of stuff. And, well, I mean, basically they've got annoyed about the penalties system and how they're not getting an arrow. And we have certainly found that often we haven't had an arrow. When we've tried to turn it on, it hasn't appeared.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it says press up on the D-pad to show the marker or whatever. That's never worked whilst I've been playing. I've basically either had the arrow or not had the arrow, and the vast majority of the time I've not had the arrow.
I mean, when I've had the arrow, I can turn it off.
Yeah,
with the button.
Yeah,
so,
same.
Yeah, so you would have thought, by in the same sort of same system, it would mean that you could turn it on, but it doesn't seem to work. What my theory is about this is that basically when you start the game, you have maybe 10 penalties, all of which are assisted by the arrow. Now, obviously, that explains why consistently you get the arrow to start with. But the reason why it appears occasionally, I think, is possibly because when you play someone who's getting the arrow, because they've only taken 10 penalties, you also get one to make it fair.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. That seems to be probably the most logical explanation for how this has been working.
I don't know whether that completely works. We played someone in Division 6 who we got the arrow on the penalty for.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that might be because they've played a lot of divisions and therefore may have only got 10 penalties.
Yeah, true.
Because
you could have only had a handful of penalties at that point. But it is an interesting one, and it's something where EA's, and we've touched on it earlier in this episode, EA's classic lack of communication. They have introduced this entirely new penalty system, and they've made sure they've signposted all the tutorials and stuff, and there are lots of ways you can practice the penalties, but they've not actually got anything talking you through precisely how the new system works and whether they're intending for people to have the arrow or not have the arrow, or what, like, the point at which you stop getting the arrow if this theory of you get an X number of matches with the arrow or X number of penalties with the arrow, what is that X? Like, how long do you get it for? So yeah, EA need to sort out their communications on this one, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I might have a dig around, try and contact a few people from EA and see what they say. It is strange. But I'll report back next week, see whether I found anything out.
Yeah, sure.
And so on to the next item.
Yeah, I've got a little story to tell everyone. This is a Reddit post I found, which I quite enjoyed, which has been written by Tongue-in Loftus-Cheek, who is doing a sort of dramatic description of his journey through the journey. I thought I'd read a little excerpt out and kind of give a shout out to him. So he writes, "The journey opens with a domestic on Clapham Common between what I assume to be Alex Hunter's parents. As the reality that I can't skip through these cutscenes sinks in, I find myself warming to the father's bad cop style and feel upset to see him leave. Ultimately, he was right. Young Alex Hunter did go down too easily. I muse that the father must be a playable character later on. After watching what is probably the most woeful penalty shootout since the conception of football, it's my turn to step up. I'm fairly certain that wherever I put this ball, it will end up in the back of the net. The keeper is about 2'5" and hasn't exactly covered himself in glory so far. Taking an absurdly strange run-up, I shot it a few inches to the keeper's left, and my mum and an old bloke, who I can only assume is her illicit lover, celebrate together on the touchline. EA doing a great job of ticking all the diversity boxes with this one." But yeah, it carries on. It's only one entry so far, and he says he's going to be updating it daily. So have a look for that on r-FIFA.
Yeah, we'll tweet out a link to the Reddit post and probably his website, which looks fairly professional actually.
Yeah, it's quite a nice looking one.
So yeah, it's pretty funny. We enjoyed reading the first post, and if you want to read the whole thing, head over to there.
Cool. That wraps it up for part 1. See you in a minute. We've got a shiny new team of the week. Some quite nice players out there. Anyone catch your eye particularly, Ben?
Well, I think this is actually a really good team of the week, we should say, compared with last week where we weren't particularly inspired. There are lots of quite interesting players, lots of players at the sort of more budget end, which I could possibly be picking up, or even some of the better players this week are quite exciting. Obviously last week we had Ronaldo, but this week Butler looks amazing. And yeah, I mean, Theo Walcott deserves a shout. Quite horrible to play against.
I mean, as an Arsenal fan, it's great to see him doing well, but I wouldn't be that distraught from a FIFA point of view if this was the last inform he gets, because the better Walcott's card becomes, the worse FIFA becomes for everyone else.
Yeah, that being said, I don't think your average class on grass FC are going to be picking up Walcott inform. But yeah, so in terms of players that we've got which have interested me, I think it is a good week for the lower end informs this week. We've got some quite interesting players. So we'll start with, shall I go with it? We'll work our way from defence to attack. So I'll start with Palois, or Palois, spelled Pallois. He's the French centre-back from Bordeaux. He looks really strong, and one of the reasons why I've picked him out is because, again, similar to the reason why we're picking out players like Jota before, he kind of fills that niche role, which there aren't really many players in his mould. Yes, he's French, and there are lots of good French centre-backs. But in terms of League One centre-backs, you actually don't have any really strong players.
Yeah, there's like Perrin. And
even then his strength isn't that.
Yeah, he's not that good physically. So he kind of, he's that sort of beastly French centre-back that is lacking in the French league.
And the other quite nice thing is that he has really rounded stats. Like all his stats are above 60 on his card. And if you look at him with anchor on, he gets 70 acceleration, 75 sprint speed, but also gets 99 strength, 85 jumping, 97 aggression, and then really, really strong tackling stats. 85 interceptions, 93 marking, 95 stand tackle, and 90 sliding tackle, as well as having really solid short passing and okay dribbling. So yeah, looks a decent player with okay long shots as well.
That's always fun.
Which is always good
fun.
Remember
having the team of the season for Tongan, I think the year before he went to Spurs, and he had something ridiculous like the high 80s or even 90s for his long shots and shot power, and just bringing it out of defence with him and spanking it into the top corner. But this guy maybe not quite on that level. But he looks decent.
He's certainly not. But as a defender, he looks really solid. High, medium, wear rates as well, and 6'2". So yeah, exactly kind of player. And I've got the Inform and Kulu, so I might pick him up to partner them together if I can work a team with them, because I think you complement Nkulu's pace and sort of agility
Yeah, because
quite
Nkunku's
nicely.
more sort of a bit thinner and not quite as stocky and strong.
Yeah, exactly. He's uses his pace to sort of get the ball rather than his strength. So it's a good pairing.
Okay. I mean, if you're starting from the back and moving forwards, I might do the opposite. I'll start with a striker this week, and that is Martin Braithwaite, the Danish striker who plays for Toulouse in League One. And I mean, his non-inform for the last couple of years has looked really solid, but just hasn't quite been good enough maybe to put him in the kind of top strikers that you might want to actually try out range. But this inform, I think, kind of just tips him over the edge. I was looking at playing around with some chemistry styles on him and looking at the in-game stats. And with Maestro, just his card stats, according to Foothead, at least go up to 87 pace, 89 dribbling, 86 shooting, 82 passing, and 81 physical. And I mean, on an 82 rated striker whose price is, I think, at around kind of 50k at time of recording, but that's after he's been in packs for 18 hours or something. So he's
bound to go down. Yeah,
he'll be close to discard probably by the end of the week. He looks like a really, really nice card. And if you look into the in-games, he's got well over 90 shot power, over 80 finishing and long shots, as well as 93 agility, 84 ball control, 93 dribbling, nearly 80 strength.
Chem style.
This is with Maestro Chem style. Cool. And also something you shouldn't underestimate is the fact he's got, at least with that Chem style, he's got 91 short passing. His base stat is 81, which is really, really solid for a striker.
That's really good, yeah.
So I mean, what I'm thinking I might do with him when I pick him up, because I'm pretty sure I will, is potentially have him as a centre forward or even a cam alongside Balotelli's inform card, maybe in a 4-4-1-1 or something. And I think he could be a really nice player to sort of link up the play. If he was a little bit bigger, he might be a good false nine, but I wonder if, because he's only 5'9", so I wonder if that might work against him there.
He does have like 79 strength, doesn't he, and really high jumping and heading, right?
His heading's pretty poor. His heading's only 68, but he does have 88 jumping.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so he'd probably feel fine in the air, to be honest. No, he just looks like a really nice all-round card. Just a pity he's Danish, so he's quite hard to link.
Yeah, because you've only got, in terms of midfield options, I think Akpro. Who's decent silver. Doumbia is decent silver, but then the only gold option really is Treasure, who's not bad, Argentinian midfielder. But yeah, he should be really good, especially with someone like Balotelli. What a nice pairing. His high work rates and Balotelli's low.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got kind of Braithwaite doing all the running and Balotelli just knocking the ball in the net.
So I'll next go for my midfielder, and we've got Mario Suarez, of course, the Spanish cousin of everyone's favourite biting centre forward. They're actually completely unrelated. So he's got ridiculous stats when you put backbone on him. He's only 82 rated, plays with Valencia, obviously Spanish. But the great thing about him is he is a really good passer of the ball, and I really like a holding player who has really, really good passing, because it means you can just spray the ball about, and I don't know, I feel like I'm playing kind of proper football whenever I can do that. So he's got, with backbone, 98 short passing, 90 long passing, and then to make sure he's defensively solid enough, it gives him 90 interceptions, 89 stand tackle, and he's also got 89 strength, 80 stamina, and he's 6'2", got decent ball control. I mean, he's pretty much everything you'd want. He's not the quickest, sort of mid 60s pace, but in that kind of holding role, it's kind of what you want.
Yeah, no, he looks like a really nice all-round card, and I mean, outside of Sergio Busquets, who's never been very good for me when I've used him in previous years, the Spanish League and Spain are sort of lacking any kind of decent defensive midfielders, properly definitely holding players.
I think that's the problem. And someone like Busquets, he's good, but he's not actually the strongest, so he's not got any pace really. So I think he's quite a good option. The only disappointing thing about him is he's got medium work rates, and ideally you'd want high medium.
Yeah, high defensive. Definitely.
So who's your midfielder?
So I've got a midfielder as well. Also in Liga BBVA, I was looking at Yannick Carrasco, the Belgian left midfielder for Atletico.
And his standard left mid card's still sort of 6k and looks very strong, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the better outside of Neymar and Ronaldo. He's pretty much, he's up there.
It's like him and Nani.
Basically, him and Nani are the kind of mid-range left-sided players in that league. And his base card looks really, really nice. Kind of good pace, good dribbling. But this inform, just a bit like with Braithwaite, takes him up to looking really, really strong. He hits 90 pace, and they've given him a nice double 80 on his shooting and passing. And his dribbling looks really solid. He's very agile. Yeah, he just looks like a very, very nice attacking player. I quite like. There's some decent Belgian links you can use. I've got a Belgian player coming up later in the show who I'm going to be talking about.
Exciting.
He's someone, and he's not small as far as I'm aware. Yeah, he's 5'10", so he's kind of could be quite a nice option out on that left side.
And he's not like really weak either, is he?
No, I don't think so. He's all right. He's got 61 strength, but if you put a physical
fairly
chem
weak,
style on
isn't
him,
it?
he is. Yeah, he's not especially strong. We won't pretend that. But if you've got sort of guessing he'll end up around the 50k mark, maybe. If you've got that sort of amount of money, so not the crazy money for a Neymar or Ronaldo, and you're looking for a left-sided BBVA player, I think you can't go far wrong with Carrasco.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a bit more than that, though, knowing BBVA prices being...
Yeah, true.
higher, so-
Not quite as much as the
But
PL premium, but
yeah, we'll have to see what he drops to, because he does look really nice. I actually find there's not that many amazing left-wing options in the game, so he's a good option.
Yeah, I've actually struggled on the whole.
Yeah.
El Shah is probably my favourite so far.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. But yeah, Carrasco looks good, so we'll have to see how far his price drops. But so my striking option is a bit of a wild card. He's an absolute tank, and he has finesse shots, so that's the main reason. No, it's not. He's actually got really good stats, and I was going to bring him up, and then I realised he had finesse
it's
shot.
an added bonus.
An added bonus. So I've put marksman on him, and I'm not sure I've actually said who he is yet. So yeah, it's Modeste. He's got a really, really nice 83 rated card, which is FC Köln, and he's French. So yeah, plenty of links there. The added fact you can get a strong link to Kingsley Coman or Frank Ribery is quite nice. Although Köln themselves don't have the best cards, but yeah.
Or Dembele on the right hand side as well.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, that's a really good point. So with marksman, he's got an incredible 98 positioning, 92 finishing, 93 shot power, 83 long shots, 89 volleys, and 86 penalties. And this is on a card that I will bet you will be about 15k.
Yeah.
And then we've got 93 jumping, 95 strength, and on card his pace is 78. So he's just incredibly well balanced if you're looking for a target man who can also play it on the ground. Because with marksman, it boosts the dribbling a little bit, and he's got 85 ball control and 80 dribbling, plus 77 agility. So you just, I'm really keen to try him. I mean, normally I like to have 4-star skills, but
I'd make an exception for someone with these sorts of stats.
And he's 6'1" as well, so really.
I think also he'd be someone that your opponents won't expect much from. I mean,
Yeah,
they'll see
yeah.
it's an informed card if you're using it, but your average Ultimate Team player will probably just not know who he is. I'd noticed his non-informed card. It's a non-rare, and I sort of looked at it, and it just looked a bit average. But this boost really has been quite significant, actually.
Yeah, it's that classic thing of these lower rated cards that get informs can actually have really, really nice cards because they've got quite a significant boost to quite a few of their stats, so it's almost like a different player.
Well, particularly this year, because they seem, if you've got a player who's below 80 overall or around that level, they're giving them really significant overall boosts.
Yeah, which is really great. Yeah, really nice.
Cool. Well, my defensive option this week is, well, he is technically a right back, but I mean, you could play him anywhere on the pitch. It's Alessandro Florenzi from Roma, and he's the first card, I think, this year to have above 80 in all his stats, because this informs brought his defending and physical up to 80, which for a right back, surprisingly, his lowest stats. He's got 87 pace, 84 dribbling, 82 shooting, 83 passing, and 80 on defending and physical. And he looks so good all round. I'd used his non-inform earlier this year, and it's a really solid right back, just quite a decent card. He's got phenomenal stamina, so he just keeps going and going up and down that wing, and sort of better going forwards than he is defensively, but not weak defensively by any stretch. But what I was almost thinking with this card is, I was scrolling through the comments on Foothead, and the legend that is I Am French has done his thing where he lists his in-game rating in different positions, and he put the basic chem style on this card, and he gets an average rating of, I think, 88 or 89 in every single position on the pitch. It's his lowest is 84 at centre back, but everywhere else he's at least 87.
And Cam,
he'd be a 90.
90. That's crazy.
So, yeah, I was just looking at this card and thinking, to be honest, I might make a team where in one of my attacking midfield slots, I put a kind of vaguely quick midfielder just to get the right chemistry and just swap them in game.
Yeah,
because having this guy tearing about in midfield would be absolutely devastating. He's got really good long shots and shot power.
And also, I think the other thing about it is that if he was a centre mid, he'd be like 3 times the price probably.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd just be unreal. And the fact that you can like swap him in game, and this year, because they've revealed this stuff about chemistry, actually has no effect on chemistry at all. So you wouldn't lose any by swapping in game.
Once players enter the game, their chemistry is locked.
Apart from subs, I think.
Substitute.
Well, those are still locked, but those
are still essentially locked, but they just can't get the full boost. But if you put him in game on 10 chemistry in a 100 chem team at right back, it doesn't matter where you then move him in game team management. So yeah, he looks like a really nice card. And I was checking his price earlier. I think he's around the kind of mid 80k mark at the moment. And again, this is the morning after these have gone into packs, so he's bound to drop.
Yeah.
So he could be one to pick up.
Like you're saying that there's only 2 stats that are below 80 on his in-game stats or something. If we're basic.
Once he's got the basic chem style on him, I think it's only his heading and strength of all his in-game stats that are below 80, which is just astonishing.
It's crazy. So yeah, he looks like a really, really interesting card, and also one of those players that seems to get additional informs. So he could well look absolutely amazing. And if he gets team of the season,
he'll be pushing 90 across the board, really, won't he?
Yeah, I mean, with a chem style, you're looking at like 90s and everything for a team of the season. Crazy.
One to watch. So I think that about wraps things up for the discussion of this team of the week. Moving on to our informed impressions, or perhaps for my one this week, more of an initial impression. I picked up the one to watch Giuliano when he was down at about 50k. I got him just under 50k. He sort of that was about the lowest point he reached after the kind of initial couple of days when ones to watch were out, and I think he looks to be rising now. And yeah, I've been trying him out. I had him as a false 9, 4-3-3 false 9, and he wasn't actually brilliant there. He feels really good on the ball. His shooting's good, his passing's good, but I think it's just the wrong setup for him. He's not weak. He's got like mid-70s strength, but he's just not quite enough of a physical presence in that position. So my initial take on him is he is a really good card. I'm happy to have paid that money for his one to watch card. I wouldn't have paid it for this as a one-off inform, because I'm assuming he's going to get more informs this year. But I think I'm going to have to try him a little bit further back, maybe as a cam behind 1 or 2 strikers. And I think there he could really, really shine. I think he's got all the stats you need for it.
Definitely. I mean, we looked at him a few weeks ago now, and he looked really good. And I'm sure once you find the right position for him, he'll be a great card. But we'll look forward to hearing more about that when you find out more about him.
Yeah, I'll bring that up in a couple of weeks probably. So after that slightly uninformed impression on Giuliano, I think we've got a rather more informed impression on a couple of players who are defenders from you, Ben. And I think we're combining this with your Dynamite Discard for the week.
So I'm going to talk about a squad that I used throughout FUT Champions, a hybrid. Everyone's on full chem. It's in the 4-2-3-1-2 formation. And we've got a really solid defence. You've got Ever on the left, centre-back, Mapu Yangambiwa, who links with Nkulu. And at the back, Trap in goal, and on the right of defence, Pereira. And the 4 of them form a really good combination because you've got Evra a bit more defensive on the left, Pereira who can really bomb on the right. I'll talk a bit more in depth about the informs at the end. But in front of them we've got William Carvalho on the right defensive midfield. On the left, Gary Medel. Both got really perfect work rates for that position. And in particular, William Carvalho is amazing. I know you tried him out earlier when we were playing with this team.
Yeah,
we're quite impressed.
Yeah, no, his passing feels really solid. It's sort of something you wouldn't necessarily expect from someone who looks like he might be a kind of more of a destroyer. But he has that side to his game. He's really strong and good defensively, but his passing really impressed me.
Yeah, and he's got great passing, but he's also doesn't feel incredibly slow. Like despite his card suggesting he's quite slow, he's not too bad. And he goes really well with Medel, who's smaller and nippier. Has really good work rates for that position, and so does Carvalho, but Medel's not so good at passing, so they balance each other out really well, actually. and like really provide quite a nice screen. And then in front of those, you've got the 4 attacking players who really get the license to go forward because of the fact that they're so well. There's such a strong defense behind them. You've got on the left El Shawari, in the middle Matthias Fernandes, who I talked about last week, so I won't talk much about now. Obviously, El Shawari is one of the more expensive players in the squad and ever as well, so they're not discard, but you could easily replace them with discard players. And on the right, Gelson Martins, who's a Sporting player, so gets a perfect link with William Carvalho, which is why you can play them there. And then up front, we've got our man Mbaye Yang. And what were your thoughts on Yang? 'Cause I've been saying that he's like one of those players you're not sure whether he's the best player ever or just the worst.
Yeah, I mean, I used him for kind of 2 games on your account, so pretty limited experience of using him. He feels incredibly quick, very, very strong, given he's 6 foot tall. His skills came off quite nicely. His dribbling was good. But yeah, your problem with him has been his finishing.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree. He did miss quite a few good chances.
And he's got like Sniper on him. I've put Sniper on him, so his dribbling's already quite decent and it's really good. And Sniper does boost his finishing enough. You're never that confident he's going to score it. And I think the good thing about him is he creates enough because of the other attributes he has that you're not too concerned that he misses some. But every now and again, it's just highly frustrating because if you had like really good finishing, he really would be one of the best cards in the game.
Yeah,
sort of like unfair, really.
Dybala who can't really finish.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he kind of feels like at the moment. Although actually not bad on his left, which Dybala struggles with his right, of course. And William Carvalho and Gelson Martins, both budget players, so cheap you can get them literally for discard price, and they're really, really strong and perfect link as well. Yeah, both really good, and yeah, I think it's just quite a nice team. The informs in particular, Pereira is really, really good. If you put anchor on him like I did, he has very, very high 90s pace.
Yeah.
And which is obviously really important on the right back. Plus sort of mid 70s strength. Really, really good tackling stats in the 90s for standing tackle, I believe. And then he's got high work rates, which allow him to get up and down, but actually also provide enough cover when he comes back. And then on the other hand, Nkulu, really, really, really solid, but obviously not the tallest, but when you partner him with someone with a bit bigger, Mapu can really jump, so that helps. And to be honest, Nkulu, I've never had a problem with him in the air.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at his stats with anchor on him, the inform Nkulu has 99 jumping and 90 strength, so he's going to challenge most players in the air.
Yeah, undoubtedly. He's really, really strong. And the other thing is that his passing's really good, so he's got like 82 short passing, 81 long, so he can play out from the back.
Not to mention 82 ball control, so he feels pretty nice on the ball.
Yeah,
well.
The whole team does actually. I think the only player who's slightly more suspect is Mapu, and the rest of them are really strong. And Pereira is especially good going forward. On his card, without even any boosts, he's got 82, 84 short passing, and just a really solid card.
Yeah, no, it's a very nicely balanced team.
Yeah, I think that's a really great thing about it, and balance is really important this year, especially when you're playing in FUT Champions where the quality is high and people can break down the defence quite easily. They really provided a good base for the other 4 players to kind of create the chances. Yeah. And actually, Pereira, Carvalho, to an extent, Ever and Medel all did get involved as well. So
yeah,
it was a good team.
Cool. Well, I've got a more traditional pick for my Dynamite discard, which is just a solo player. Plays for Zenit. I had him behind Giuliano in my squad with him, and it's Axel Witsel, the Belgian centre midfielder. He's 82 rated. So he's not essentially doesn't look like he'd necessarily be a pick for a Dynamite discard because he's relatively high rated, but you can get him for discard price. There's so little demand for Russian league players that he goes for incredibly cheap. But yeah, so I had Axel Witsel as a centre mid in a false 9 formation, and I wasn't initially very impressed by him. He's got well-rounded stats. Everything's above 70. His pace is his lowest at 71, but he doesn't feel particularly slow. He's tall, he's 6'1", he's got 80 physical, and he feels very strong on the ball. He's got good dribbling, decent passing, and sort of fairly middling stats on his shooting and defending. His shooting is nicely rounded. His long shots and shot power are 74 and 78 respectively. He's got above 70 for his tackling stats, as well as 80 interceptions. But after a couple of games, he really started to shine for me. I had one game in particular where I won 4-2, I think, and he got 2 goals and 2 assists. and he just felt like he was everywhere. His dribbling's really nice. He's very agile for someone his size, and he's got 4-star skills. Shouldn't forget that. He's just a bit like Andre last week. He doesn't have the high work rates. He's only medium, but he just seems to get everywhere, cover a lot of ground. He's a good target to hit from your goal kicks if you maybe have a slightly shorter team up front. I find myself using quite a lot of nippy attackers this year, and so he's been quite a nice sort of semi-target man in those squads.
And also the 4-star skills is like a huge advantage for a box-to-box player. You don't get that.
It's quite an unusual one, and he's a player I wasn't expecting much from. I kind of had him in for chemistry. I wasn't sure whether to use him or there's another Zenit midfielder called Mauricio, who's Brazilian, who would get a perfect link with Giuliano, and I was umming and ahhing as to which one to use, and I went for Witsel first, and I'm really glad I did, and I would definitely recommend to check him out if you're looking for a midfielder with some skills and who's kind of solid defensively but can really shine going forwards.
He's one of those players. It's a shame he didn't move into one of the big leagues early on in his career, because it would have been good to see how he performed at the sort of top level.
Yeah.
He's had a fairly consistent card at Zenit, but you don't get the impression he's come on leaps and bounds since being there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just to round up this section for this week, I think we're going to have a little look back at one of our previous picks, Diogo Jota, who we spoke about last week, because we've both been using him more, and our impressions of him have only increased, really.
Yeah, I had a game with him recently where he was just unstoppable. It was in the semi-final of the All-Nation tournament. So I had a full Portuguese team. It was 4-3, so it was a fairly tough game. But he scored all 4 goals, had 6 shots, all on target, 23 completed dribbles out of 23, 18 out of 23 completed short passes, and a rating of 10. And this is a game that went on. It may have even gone into extra time. So
yeah,
he is phenomenal. And one of them was like a crazy header. The other was a long shot, a sort of slotted finish. I mean, he just can score them all.
Yeah, no, the variety of goals that I've scored with him as well in my team, he just keeps surprising me. I've had quite a lot of success with him with headers, actually, particularly off corners. I scored one where he absolutely rifled it into the top corner from a near post corner.
Yeah, you showed me that.
And I showed it to you. Yeah, it was a really, really, I was just amazed by the power he got on it. He scored a shot into the bottom corner from sort of 25, 30 yards where it went all the way along the ground, and I thought there's no way that's going in, but it just kind of nicked in off the post. Yeah, his dribbling is amazing. I know his price has gone up a lot with the Sun squad build challenge, but if you get the chance to pick him up, definitely do, because he's a really, really top quality player.
Yeah, and I can say now he is worth picking up. And the other thing to say is it actually could be quite interesting. There's potential for his price to rise a bit, even because there's going to be so few of him now, because if he's been submitted for the squad building challenges.
Yeah, no, that's quite a good point, actually.
Then there really could be a lack of him on the market.
Yeah, so pick him up now before he's completely extinct. Thanks for listening. That was week 5 of FUT Weekly. We'll be here again same time next Thursday, bringing you all the information on Team of the Week, Dynamite Discards. We'll have all the stats right, and it will be at about the right time, unlike EA's Team of the Week announcement. Have a great week, and don't hesitate to get in touch if there's anything you want us to discuss in next week's episode. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.